The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
A man named John was sent from God. He came for testimony, to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. And this is the testimony of John. When the Jews from Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to him to ask him, "Who are you?" he admitted and did not deny it, but admitted, "I am not the Christ." Well, so they asked him, "What are you then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you one of the prophets?" He answered, "No." So they said to him, "Who are you? So we can give an answer to those who sent us. What do you have to say for yourself?" And he said, "I am the voice of the one crying out in the desert, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as Isaiah the prophet said." Well, some Pharisees were also sent, and they asked him, "Why then do you baptize if you are not the Christ, or Elijah, or the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water, but there is one among you whom you do not recognize, the one who is coming after me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to untie." This happened in Bethany, across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
If there's something that you want to know, if there's maybe a task that you would like to do and you have no experience, you've never done it before, you've never been exposed to it, where do you go for information? YouTube, right? Don't we go to YouTube? And YouTube gives us all that information that we need on how it is that we're to approach a task. One of the ways is if you want to tie a fly to go fly fishing, you can look up on YouTube, and there's videos there that will walk you through how to tie a fly. If you want to lay artificial grass in your yard, there's videos that will show you how to prepare the soil, how to put the perimeter around the space, and it walks you through all the different things you need to know so that you too can complete the task. Oh, there's various other things there, how to cook. YouTube is a great source for this information on the how-to. Well, today we have John, the story of John once again. And if you remember, we heard about John the Baptizer, John the Baptist last week, the first words from Mark's Gospel, where he was this rogue figure. He was this person that was different from everyone else, clothed in camel hair, ate wild locusts and honey. He was this different guy. Today's story, from the fourth Gospel according to John, we hear about John the Baptizer once again, but he was never referred to as John the Baptizer. He was referred to as John. And here's the YouTube part of the story. It talks about how John recognized and realized what his call was, what his job was, what it was that he was put on this earth to do. And that was to prepare the way for, as we know, his cousin, prepare the way for Jesus. And he referred to it as the light. And so The light that John was telling everyone about, he was making sure that everybody was focused on the message. John was not seeking attention. John was not the one drawing the attention to himself, but rather he was preparing the way for the light in not only his life and the life of those around him, but for us, these couple of thousand years later. This YouTube video of John is to help us have a life similar to his call. His vocation, if you will, was dedicated to prepare a way for Jesus himself. Our vocation, especially in this Advent season, is to do the same, is to make way in our hearts, to make way in our world, in our sphere of influence, our homes, our workplace, our social gatherings, our families, and our friends. And most importantly, it begins, especially in Advent season, it begins inside of each of us to prepare for the coming of the light in our own lives. In the gospel, we hear that, as John, the gospel writer, puts it, they did not recognize Jesus in their midst. They didn't recognize who was present among them. And so that kind of rings in our own mind that we're challenged and called to recognize that Christ is among us. Christ is in our midst. And therefore, our lives are complete with Christ among us, and our job, if you will, following the YouTube video of John the Baptist, to make that light present in our own lives and in the lives of others is our task. Now, we have 2,000 years of history to help us understand the light in our lives and how it is that God is calling us and impacting each of us to impact the world and to be this light for others. So today, when we stop and think about this third Sunday of Advent, especially with the pink candle being the Gaudete Sunday, the joyful Sunday, it is truly a joyful day, for it's this gift of God, it's the love of God himself for each of us to provide the light for us. That love and that mercy that God has for us did not abandon us, did not leave us to be, but we are joyful because he reached out and he has welcomed us and provided that light for us. And our call today is to prepare the way of that light once again in our own lives and to be like John and make sure that we reach out and that the world also sees that light within us.
Let us rise and profess our faith in God as we say, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth,